It always starts like this. You're lying in bed. It's 3:17 a.m. The world outside is dead quiet, but inside you, something is screaming. You sit up, breath shallow. Your skin is clammy, your chest tight. You don't remember the whole dream, just flashes. A hallway with no end, a voice you know but can't place, a decision you never made, but now feel guilty for. You whisper to yourself, it's just a dream, but even as you say it, something inside you clenches, because it didn't feel fake. It felt encoded, like your soul was trying to say something without using words. Now imagine this. What if every night your mind becomes a storyteller, but not to entertain, to confess, to expose, to untangle knots your waking self refuses to see? And here's the twist Freud discovered over 100 years ago. These stories don't come from your rational self. They come from a shadow realm deep beneath your logic, your unconscious. A place where guilt takes the form of a dying friend, where desire wears your mother's face, where trauma shapeshifts into symbols you can't decode. In his revolutionary book, The Interpretation of Dreams, Freud didn't just argue that dreams mean something. He declared something far more terrifying. Every dream is a secret confession. Every image is a metaphor. Every distortion, a defense mechanism. Every nightmare, a wish. And here's the worst part. Most people will go their whole lives never realizing what their dreams are trying to tell them. They'll keep brushing them off, keep forgetting them, keep ignoring that quiet scream at 3:17 a.m. But not you, because in this journey, you're about to learn how to listen to what your dreams have been whispering all along. You'll walk through 15 doors, each one a different layer of your inner world. Some will show you things you've buried. Others will reveal desires you thought you weren't allowed to feel. And at the end of this house of mirrors, you might just find a version of yourself you forgot existed. Let's begin. Section 1. The mirror door. You wake up after a vivid dream. Someone was chasing you. You couldn't scream. You couldn't run. And when you finally escaped, you weren't in your house. You were in your childhood school. But the faces were all wrong. The colors were all wrong. You tell yourself that was random. Nonsense. No meaning. Just noise. But Freud would stop you right there. Because behind that chaos is a pattern. And behind that pattern is a map. This is the first and most crucial doorway in your journey. It's the split that defines your entire psychic life. Your conscious versus your unconscious. Your conscious mind. That's the part of you watching this video, holding your phone, nodding at words that make sense. But it's a surface. A thin sheet of ice over a deep black lake. Beneath it, the unconscious. Vast, wild, unfiltered. It holds every memory you forgot, every desire you repressed, every shameful thought you pushed away. You think you're in control, but 90% of what drives your actions lives below awareness. That's why dreams matter. They are not a glitch. They are the leakage. Freud discovered this not through theory, but experience. His patients spoke with stiff logic by day, but described wild dreams by night. And those dreams, they revealed more than hours of conversation ever could. One patient dreamt of spilling ink. Harmless. No, it was a metaphor for the abortion she never spoke of. Another dreamt of a dog locked in a box. Turned out, he had memories of being locked in a closet by his father, something he'd buried for decades. These dreams were not metaphors created by art. They were metaphors created by pain. So why the metaphor? Why not just say it straight? Because your unconscious doesn't have access to language. It speaks in symbols. It paints in paradox. It doesn't care about being polite. It cares about being true. It knows that if it gave you the real memory or real desire, you'd reject it, deny it, block it. So it sends a decoy, a riddle, a dream. And the more you ignore it, the louder it gets. That's why you have recurring dreams. That's why you feel emotions in dreams more intense than any real moment in your waking life. Because the unconscious is not interested in your schedule or your self-image. It's only interested in integrating the whole truth. So here's your first challenge. Stop thinking of dreams as junk data. Start seeing them as encrypted letters from your deepest self. And ask, what part of me is trying to come home through this madness? Because that's just the first door. Section 2. The door that lies to tell the truth. Not every liar is a villain. Some lie to protect. Some lie because the truth would be too much, too soon. That's what your dreams do. They lie, so you don't break. Freud called this the dream work. It's not lazy. It's not random. It's a defense system, and it's brilliant. Imagine this. There's a courtroom in your mind. In the center sits a desire. Raw, unacceptable, overwhelming. Maybe you want something you're ashamed of. Maybe you resent someone you should love. If that truth marched in as it is, your ego would slam the gavel and scream, guilty. So your mind performs a magic trick. It takes that desire, rips it apart, distorts it, masks it, and slips it into your dreams, like contraband, through airport security. Here's something funny though. Your unconscious is like a terrible spy. It tries to disguise the message but always leaves clues. You dream about flying? Check if you've been feeling trapped lately. Dream about losing teeth? Maybe you're worried about losing control or looking foolish. The disguise is never perfect, thank God. You don't dream about wanting freedom from your marriage. You dream about flying alone over a city, weightless and terrified. You don't dream about hating your job. You dream about being buried in sand as your coworkers laugh. The images are strange, but the emotions, they're precise. That's the trick of the lie. It changes the form, but not the feeling. Freud said this distortion happens through condensation and displacement. Condensation is when your mind fuses multiple ideas into one image. You dream of a stranger with your mother's voice and your ex's eyes. That's not three people. That's one feeling, safety and danger, woven together. Displacement. That's when the emotional charge gets transferred. You don't cry for the real wound. You cry in a dream where your childhood dog runs away. The sadness is real. The scene is a smokescreen. And why does this happen? Because your ego is a censor, a gatekeeper. During the day, it keeps everything civilized. But when you sleep, it dozes off just enough for something wild to sneak through the cracks. Still, not too wild, not directly. So the unconscious wraps its message in riddles and masks. Like a dream where you can't find the bathroom. But the real issue is that you can't express your anger. Or a dream where you're being graded in school. But the real issue is that you feel judged in your new relationship. So, next time you wake up from a dream that seems absurd, don't dismiss it. Decode it. Ask, what feeling did I wake up with? What situation in my life might that emotion really belong to? What truth is this dream disguising so I can survive it? Because here's the paradox. Your dreams lie, but they only lie so you'll finally hear the truth. And sometimes, that truth wears a terrifying mask. Section 3. The nightmare that was a wish. This is the hardest door to open because it asks you to accept something deeply uncomfortable, that your worst dreams might actually be what you wanted, not in the way you think, not with pride, but in the twisted backward logic of the unconscious. Your nightmares are not punishments, they're confessions. Freud called it the wish fulfillment theory, and on the surface, it sounds absurd. How could a dream of falling teeth, being chased, or losing your child possibly be a wish? But Freud didn't mean wish as desire you proudly hold. He meant it as a need your conscious mind refuses to admit. The wish doesn't have to be noble. In fact, it's often the kind of wish you'd rather die than say out loud. That's why it gets distorted into something horrifying. Take this: a woman dreams she forgets her baby in the car, and the child suffocates. She wakes up sobbing, ashamed. she's a good mother. But Freud would ask, not, do you want your child to suffer, but rather, what freedom did you lose when you became a mother? The dream, then, is not about harm. It's about the buried wish for space, the buried grief of self-erasure, and the unconscious mind, unable to speak gently, screams that conflict in metaphor. Or another man dreams that he's being stabbed by his father. Terrifying, yes. But in life, he's been stuck in obedience, living for approval, never free to rebel. That violent dream, it's his wish for independence, filtered through guilt and shame. The stabbing is not trauma replay. It's his mind's clumsy, symbolic attempt to sever the invisible leash. Nightmares, then, aren't enemies. They're flashlights. They show you the exact place your soul is trapped. They speak in terror, because whispers haven't worked. They shake you awake, because that's the only way you'll listen. Freud even described dreams as guardians of sleep, not disruptors. They come to keep you asleep, despite the internal conflict boiling underneath. The dream twists your conflict into symbols, so you don't wake up screaming every night from your own contradictions. But when the conflict is too strong, that's when the distortion fails. That's when nightmares break through. You've had them. You remember them more clearly than your real memories, because they weren't trying to hurt you. They were trying to reach you. So next time you find yourself sweating, heart racing, pulled out of sleep by something unspeakable, don't just try to forget it. Ask the impossible question, what dark wish might this be protecting? Because sometimes, the most terrifying dreams are the ones that love you enough to tell the truth. Have you ever had a recurring nightmare? Drop a yes in the comments. You're not alone in this. Let's pause here. Take a breath. We've covered some heavy ground. Dreams are messages from your unconscious. They're disguised to protect you from overwhelming truths. Even nightmares might be twisted wishes. You know what's funny? Even Freud needed his dreams to protect his ego. Let me tell you about the time he psychoanalyzed himself through a dream about a needle in someone's throat. Section 4. The dirty little wish inside you. Let's not sugarcoat this. The unconscious is not polite. It doesn't care about your social reputation. It doesn't care about your values, your politics, or your image. It cares only about what is unresolved. And that means it often shows you parts of yourself that feel ugly, primitive, inappropriate, even dangerous. Freud didn't flinch from this. He leaned into it. He argued that most of our dreams, especially the ones we forget or dismiss, are built on repressed desires. Sexual, aggressive, narcissistic. You dream of cheating on your partner, of hitting someone you smiled at that day, of being praised by a crowd that doesn't exist. And you wake up thinking, why would I dream that? That's not me. But what if it is? Not the surface version, not your conscious self, but the exiled parts. The ones you've judged so harshly they had to go underground. And now they live in disguise, inside your dreams. A woman dreams that she's seducing her boss, even though she finds him repulsive. She feels disgusted by the dream. But Freud would ask, what does that symbol mean to you? Is it about power, recognition, validation? Maybe what her unconscious longs for isn't sex, but agency. And in the language of dreams, power often arrives wearing the clothes of taboo. Or a man dreams he pushes someone off a cliff. He's horrified. But in life, he's the nice guy, always saying yes, always avoiding conflict. That violent image, it's the only way his unconscious can express the rage he's been swallowing for years. Dreams don't make moral judgments. They don't say, this is good or this is evil. They say, this is real. And the real includes what we try to deny. That's why so many of us wake up feeling guilty, disturbed, even ashamed of what we saw. But it's not because your dreams make you bad. It's because they make you whole. Your dreams are the only space in your life where you can hold two truths at once: love and resentment, kindness and violence, desire and fear. And the more you reject these truths while awake, the more urgently they'll return at night. So what do you do with this dirty little wish? You don't act it out. You understand it. You listen to it like you would a child who finally dares to tell you a secret. You say, "Thank you for trusting me." What are you trying to protect? What part of me have I been too afraid to feel? Because here's the secret. Freud left us. You're not a bad person for dreaming badly. You're just a person trying to become whole. And wholeness always starts with honesty. Here's where it gets really interesting. What happens when Freud dreams of himself? Section 5. The needle in Irma's throat. Freud didn't invent dream analysis in a lab. He bled for it. His theory was born not from arrogance, but from a single dream that shook him to his core. A dream that arrived after a failure, a patient, and a creeping guilt he couldn't explain away. That dream became the cornerstone of everything he believed about the human mind. Her name was Irma, one of his patients. Freud had treated her, but she hadn't gotten better. He felt responsible, but also frustrated. Then, one night, he dreamed she stood before him in distress. He examined her and saw a white patch inside her throat. Then, another doctor entered the room. Freud watched as the doctor declared she'd been poisoned by a badly administered injection. That's all. On the surface, strange, disconnected, like one of those dreams where you're at work, but also somehow on a beach, and your boss is a talking cat. But Freud didn't stop there. He analyzed it, dissected it, and what he found would shape the future of psychology. The white patch in Irma's throat, a symbol of infection. Yes, but also purity tainted, a place of speech where something couldn't be spoken. The other doctor, a projection of Freud's guilt, relieved only by blaming someone else. The entire dream, he realized, was a defense mechanism. It wasn't random. It was an attempt to protect his ego, to say, "It wasn't my fault she didn't heal. It was someone else. A bad injection, a bad method, not him." But buried underneath that wish for innocence was the truth. He felt responsible. That dream didn't come to comfort him. It came to confront him, with layers of denial, deflection, and finally, grief. And this wasn't just theory. It was his own unconscious, laying itself bare. Freud later wrote that this dream was the royal road to understanding the unconscious, because it showed how dreams disguise the unacceptable, not just to hide it from others, but from ourselves. And in doing so, they expose the deeper truth that our minds are constantly negotiating between guilt and relief, shame and absolution, truth and protection. So, what do we learn from Irma's injection? That your dreams are not trying to flatter you. They're not trying to entertain you. They're trying to tell you the truth you're not strong enough to say in daylight. And when the dream is this vivid, this layered, this persistent, it's not because you're broken. It's because some part of you is trying to find relief. Your Irma dream is waiting. Your throat is already tight. The question is, will you open it? Because the next door doesn't hide the message. It distorts it. With genius. Section 6. The machine that twists meaning. Inside your sleeping brain is an artist and a saboteur. One wants to deliver the truth. The other wants to keep you from breaking. So they compromise. The result? A dream. Not a photograph of your feelings, but a collage. Torn up pieces of memory, emotion, fantasy, spliced together into something that looks surreal, but feels hauntingly familiar. Freud called this process the dream work, a mental machine that twists raw meaning into something survivable. Let's start with condensation, where multiple thoughts or people fuse into one. You dream of your sister, but she has your ex's haircut and your boss's laugh. That's not random. It's efficient. The dream is layering identities because what it wants to show you isn't a person. It's a feeling that lives in the overlap. Maybe guilt, maybe rejection, maybe longing. It's the emotional Venn diagram that matters, not the names. Your unconscious is the ultimate mashup DJ. It takes tracks from different parts of your life and blends them into one dream song. Sometimes the mix is smooth. Sometimes it's like hearing death metal mixed with a lullaby. But there's always a reason for the combination. Then comes displacement. That's when the emotional weight of one thing is transferred onto something else. Less threatening, more symbolic. You dreamed that you lost your wallet, but you didn't feel panic. You felt rage. And if you follow that emotion back, you realize it's not about your wallet. It's about how your partner dismissed you yesterday. Your unconscious chose a safer scene to express an unsafe truth. These distortions aren't accidents. They're survival tactics. If you faced your raw desires or your darkest fears unfiltered, you might wake up screaming. Or worse, you might not be able to face yourself at all. So, your mind wraps the blade in velvet. It cloaks the real message in strangeness. That's why dreams feel absurd, fragmented, even laughable, until you stop and ask, what was I feeling? Where in my waking life does that feeling belong? Freud believed the dream work functioned like censorship. The unconscious writes the message, but your ego? It has red ink. It scratches out names. It blurs faces. It rearranges scenes, all to protect you from what you're not ready to see. But protection is not erasure. The message always leaks through. Think of your dream like an encrypted file. On the surface, it's garbled, but the emotional content? Still intact. And if you learn how to reverse engineer that encryption by decoding symbols, tracking feelings, examining distortions, you gain access to a deeper kind of truth, a truth no waking thought could have shown you. So the next time your dream makes no sense, remember that's by design. Nonsense is the disguise. Emotion is the key. Because if your dream was too honest, you'd reject it. But if it's too distorted, you'll ignore it. The dream work lives in that perfect tension. Just enough truth to wake something in you. Just enough lies to keep you safe. Try this tonight. Before bed, think of one emotion you felt today, but didn't express. See if it shows up in costume. Section 7. The stranger who is you. You wake from a dream, and you remember her face. Not someone you know, but somehow familiar. She didn't speak, but she watched you, and the whole dream bent around her gaze. Who was she? Just a random extra in your mental play? Freud would say no. He would lean in and whisper something unsettling. That was you. One of Freud's boldest and most radical ideas was this. Every person in your dream is a part of you. Every mother, lover, monster, judge. They are not characters. They are masks your unconscious wears to tell you something you won't hear directly. That's why your dream lover doesn't behave like your real partner. That's why your dream enemy is often a mirror, not a stranger. Because your unconscious doesn't deal in logic. It deals in projection. Think of it like this. You're made up of parts. Confident parts, cowardly parts, angry parts, soft parts you bury under sarcasm, loud parts you silence to keep the peace. When you dream, those parts get stage time. And because your waking self has exiled them, they return wearing faces you don't expect. A child who won't stop crying, a friend who betrays you, a boss who kisses you. The question isn't, who are they? The question is, what part of me have they come to embody? I used to dream about this angry old man who'd show up and yell at everyone, just furious. I'd wake up disturbed, thinking, who was that guy? Then during therapy, I realized, I never express anger, ever. I'm the nice one. That old man? He was my rage, aged and bitter from being locked away so long. Once I started letting myself feel angry, in small, healthy ways, he stopped showing up. A man once told Freud he kept dreaming of a beggar. Filthy, desperate, always at the edge of the dream. In real life, this man was rich, respected. But when they dug deeper, they found something buried. Shame about growing up poor. A part of him still believed he was undeserving. That beggar wasn't a warning. He was a ghost self, pleading to be acknowledged. The woman who dreams her child drowns. Maybe it's not about her child at all. Maybe it's about the innocent part of herself she's neglected. Maybe that child is her, and maybe her unconscious is saying, "You've left something beautiful behind. Go back." This is what makes dream work so powerful and so terrifying, because to truly interpret a dream, you have to stop looking outward. You have to turn inward. You have to ask, why did I create this character? What part of me are they performing? What emotion have they come to wear on my behalf? Freud called this identification, the act of embodying someone else to express something in yourself. And it works both ways. Sometimes you appear in your dreams as someone else. You dream you're your father, or your ex, or a stranger making decisions you'd never make. Don't dismiss that. It's your psyche rehearsing a part of yourself you're not ready to claim. Because here's the brutal, beautiful truth. Your dreams don't show you the world. They show you yourself through 1,000 masks. And once you see through them, you can't unsee. Quick recap of where we've been. Dreams use condensation, mixing people, places. They use displacement, moving emotions to safer symbols. Every dream character is you in disguise. Here's something lighter. My 7-year-old nephew told me he dreamed he was a dinosaur, painting rainbows with his tail. He wasn't embarrassed, just pure joy. When did we lose that? When did dreams become something to analyze instead of celebrate? Now, let's talk about the little details that sneak in from yesterday. Section 8. The invisible thread from yesterday. You dream you're standing in a supermarket aisle made entirely of clocks. The floor ticks beneath your feet. The cashier is your high school math teacher. She's crying. You wake up thinking, what the hell was that? And then, suddenly, you remember. Yesterday, you saw someone in the street who looked like her. You were late to a meeting. You were thinking about time. Is that all it takes? According to Freud, yes. These fragments, small, insignificant leftovers from waking life, are what he called day residues. They are the crumbs your mind uses to build the bread of your dreams. But don't mistake them for random. They're not filler. They're fuel. Because your unconscious doesn't create from nothing. It collages from everything. And the little things you ignore? Think of your unconscious as the world's most creative recycler. That random TikTok you scrolled past? The snippet of conversation you overheard at Starbucks? The song that auto-played while you cooked? All fair game. Your conscious mind said whatever, but your unconscious said, "I'll take that. Thank you very much." Freud believed that dreams always draw from the recent, the last 24 to 48 hours. Why? Because that's where emotional friction hides. You don't always process what annoyed you, what moved you, what confused you, so your dreams do it for you. They take yesterday's conversation, your scrolling, the song that got stuck in your head, and they mix it with emotion you never got to feel. The result? A story that seems surreal, but is anchored in the unspoken. Let's say you dream of losing your keys while searching a beach full of broken mirrors. The night before, you watched a movie with waves. You misplaced your headphones. You felt awkward during a phone call, and yet, none of those things felt worth thinking about. But your unconscious disagreed. It said you're losing access to something. Reflection, clarity, maybe identity. So it took yesterday's junk and spun it into metaphor. This is why keeping a dream journal is powerful. Because when you start mapping your dreams to your days, you realize, oh, that wasn't random. That was unresolved. That line your friend said, the look your partner gave you, the deadline you forgot to care about. It all matters. Not for the plot, but for the feeling. Freud often warned against dismissing dreams because they're inspired by recent events. He'd say, of course they are. That's the point. Your dreams are like emotional archaeologists. They dig through the trash of your day to find the diamond of your truth. And the more you dismiss the little stuff, the more likely it is to return at night, dressed in costume, demanding to be seen. So here's a practice tonight. Before you sleep, write down 3 moments from your day that made your stomach twist, even a little. A flash of jealousy, a moment of envy, a sentence that landed wrong. Then, tomorrow, compare. Did any of it show up? Did your unconscious weave it into something strange? Because the truth is, your dreams are yesterday's emotions wearing tomorrow's masks. And if you stop long enough to trace the thread, you might just find the part of you still waiting to speak. What's the weirdest dream element you've traced back to something from your day? Comment below. Section 9. The loop that won't break. There's a dream you've had more than once, maybe dozens of times, maybe since you were a child. The setting might shift, the faces might change, but the feeling is always the same. A hallway you can't escape, a test you're never prepared for, a scream you can't voice. No matter how you try, the dream keeps coming back, slightly distorted, yet eerily familiar. Freud would tell you, this is no accident. It's not bad luck. It's not your brain being lazy. It's a loop, and it's not repeating to haunt you. It's repeating because you still haven't listened. I had a friend who dreamed about missing flights for years. Different airports, different destinations, but always the same panic, always running through terminals, always watching the plane leave without her. She thought it was about travel anxiety. Then she realized it started right after she turned down her dream job to stay in a relationship. The dream wasn't about planes. It was about missed opportunities, about watching life take off without her. Recurrent dreams, Freud believed, are symptoms of psychic stuckness. They are a record skip in the unconscious, a moment of emotional significance that never got processed. So, your mind replays it, not because it enjoys tormenting you, but because it's begging for resolution. Take the man who dreams he's drowning every few months. It started after a breakup, but in every version of the dream, he's in a different body of water. Sometimes an ocean, sometimes a swimming pool, once in a bowl of soup. The unconscious has a weird sense of humor. What stays the same? The helplessness, the panic, the feeling of being pulled under. That's the key, because it's not about the setting, it's about the message. Or the woman who keeps dreaming of being late to an exam that never begins, that she never studied for. She hasn't been in school for years, but in life, she's always chasing perfection, always afraid of being exposed as unworthy. The dream isn't about school, it's about shame. The loop plays because the belief never changed. Freud saw these recurring dreams as unconscious protest. A part of you is knocking at the same emotional door, over and over, saying, "Let me in, let me be felt." And the reason it hasn't stopped is because you still won't answer. So, what can you do? First, stop trying to get rid of the dream. Start seeing it as a friend with a painful message. Ask, what emotion repeats here? What memory might it connect to? What belief is playing in the background that I've never questioned? Second, try changing your response inside the dream. Lucid or not, if you find yourself in the same hallway, the same test, the same chase, pause, breathe. Imagine turning around and asking, "Why are you here?" Sometimes that simple act can break the loop, because you're no longer running, you're listening. Freud believed that healing is not about forgetting, it's about integration. The moment you feel what you've been running from, the loop starts to dissolve. The nightmare doesn't need to return. The message was received. And sometimes, all it takes to break the cycle is permission to feel what you thought was forbidden. If you have a recurring dream, type it in the comments. Sometimes just naming it helps break its power. Section 10. The dreams we lost growing up. Think back to when you were 5, maybe 6. You woke from a dream, and it lingered. Warm, strange, magical. You told your parents about the flying elephant, the talking tree, the invisible friend who knew your secrets. And they smiled, maybe laughed, maybe said, "It's just a dream." And in that moment, something inside you dimmed. The bridge between your soul and your waking life cracked. Freud believed that children's dreams are different. Simpler, yes, but also purer, closer to truth, because children haven't yet learned to repress. Their dreams don't need complex disguises or twisted symbols. A child who's hungry dreams of cake. A child who misses their mother dreams of being held. Wish fulfillment, clear as glass. But as we grow older, the clarity fades. The symbols get tangled. The masks become intricate. Why? Because our defenses evolve. Our guilt grows sharper. Our shame finds deeper roots. Adults can't dream of the thing they want, not directly. A dream of love becomes a dream of a locked room. A dream of rest becomes a dream of being lost in a forest. The desire is still there, but it's buried under years of conditioning. What will they think of me? That's not who I am. That's not safe. So the unconscious adapts. It wraps longing in layers. It encrypts. And suddenly, a dream that once felt like a mirror becomes a puzzle you can't solve. But the child is still there, buried beneath the logic, the pride, the persona. That same child who wanted to fly, who wanted to be seen, who wanted to be safe, and their dreams never stopped. You just stopped listening. Freud didn't romanticize childhood. He knew it held darkness too. He spoke of infantile sexuality, of aggression, of chaos. But he also believed that in children, the line between desire and dream was thin. They hadn't learned yet to lie to themselves. And in that innocence lived a kind of wisdom adults forget. So what do we do with this? We remember, not just the dreams we had, but the way we dreamed. We practice seeing again, without judgment, feeling without justification, wishing without shame. And when a dream startles you awake, ask, what would my younger self see here? What would they feel before they learned to fear it? Because sometimes, the clearest messages in our dreams don't come from our adult self. They come from the part of us we abandoned when we chose to grow up. And when you start letting that child speak again, you don't just decode your dreams. You remember who you were before the world told you what was possible. Let's appreciate the journey so far. Your child self still dreams purely. Recurring dreams are knocking doors. Day residues are emotional archaeology. What simple thing did you dream about as a child that you still secretly want? Flying, being seen, having magical powers? Maybe those weren't childish at all. Maybe they were truths dressed in wonder. Now, let's explore what happens when dreams show you failure. Section 11. The dream that shows you your weakness. You show up late. You forgot your lines. Everyone's watching. Your clothes are inside out. The elevator never reaches your floor. Your teeth fall out. You wake up rattled, embarrassed, sweating. And yet nothing really happened. Nothing that mattered. Except you felt exposed, small, helpless. Freud would say, good. That's the point. These are the dreams that strip us bare, not with monsters or shadows, but with failure. Mundane, familiar, real. And that's what makes them powerful, because they hit where it hurts the most. Your sense of control, your identity, your competence. Here's a confession: I still have dreams, where I'm back in high school and I can't find my classroom. I'm 35. I have a PhD. But my unconscious doesn't care about my credentials. It knows that deep down, I still feel like I'm faking it, like everyone else has the map, and I'm just wandering, hoping no one notices. Freud saw these dreams not as fears, but as diagnostics. They show you where you feel inadequate, where you're doubting yourself, where your ego is cracking under pressure, and your unconscious is staging a rehearsal of what you most fear will happen. Not to punish you, but to prepare you, like a dress rehearsal for shame. Take the classic test dream. You're in a classroom. There's a paper in front of you. Everyone else is writing. You can't read the questions. You don't have a pen. You panic. You fail. In real life, you haven't taken a test in years. But maybe you're facing a presentation, a performance, a decision. Your unconscious pulls that old metaphor off the shelf and says, "This is what pressure feels like. Do you remember?" Or the dream where you're naked in public. Not sexual, just vulnerable. Everyone can see you. No place to hide. It's not about clothes. It's about exposure. Imposter syndrome. The terror that everyone else has. It figured out, and you don't. That if they really knew you, they'd leave. These dreams don't come to curse you. They come to coach you. Your unconscious is saying, this is the fear that's running the show. This is the wound you're organizing your life around. And the moment you name it, it starts to lose its power. Because here's the thing, most people spend their days compensating, trying to look confident, sound intelligent, appear put together. But your dreams, they're the one place where the mask falls off, where the real insecurity gets to breathe. Freud didn't say this to make you feel weak. He said it to help you feel whole. Because the moment you acknowledge the part of you that feels small is the moment you stop needing to prove that you're big. So when you wake up from a failure dream, don't rush to shake it off. Sit with it. Ask, what am I avoiding in my waking life that this dream is forcing me to feel? What am I afraid they'll see? And what if I let myself see it first? Because when you stop fearing your failures, you stop being owned by them. What's your most common failure dream? Exams? Being chased? Teeth falling out? Drop it in the comments. I bet you're not alone. Section 12. The dreams of the dead. You see them, not in memories, but in dreams. A father who passed 5 years ago. A grandmother long gone. A friend you never got to say goodbye to. And they're not just background noise. They speak. They look you in the eye. Sometimes they say what they never said in life. Sometimes they simply appear, silent, still, watching. Freud believed these dreams were not spiritual visitations, but psychological echoes. The dead return in dreams not because they haunt us, but because we haunt ourselves with the unresolved. Regret, longing, guilt, love. These feelings don't die with the body. They live on, buried deep in the unconscious. And when the mind sleeps, those emotions finally come up for air. Let me share something raw. My grandfather died when I was 20. We'd been fighting. I never apologized. For years, he'd show up in my dreams. Not angry, just there, standing in doorways, sitting at tables, waiting. It took me 5 years to understand. He wasn't waiting for an apology. My unconscious was waiting for me to forgive myself. A man dreams that his father enters the room and asks, "Why didn't you come sooner?" He wakes up in tears. He's been telling himself for years that he did all he could. But the dream bypasses the justifications. It opens the wound he never admitted was still there. Another woman dreams her sister, who died in an accident, is laughing with her on a train. No words, just joy. In life, they had been fighting. The dream? A wish, not to undo the death, but to restore the love that got lost before it. Freud interpreted these dreams through the lens of wish fulfillment, but not in the childish sense of pretending the dead are alive. No, it's subtler than that. We dream of the dead because there are feelings we didn't finish, a boundary we didn't set, a truth we didn't say, a hand we never held long enough. And the dream offers a stage, one final rehearsal, for a relationship that never truly ended. But here's the deeper insight. The dead in your dreams are not just them. They're you. They are the parts of yourself that you buried with them, the tenderness you shut down, the vulnerability you hardened, the laughter you stopped allowing. In dreaming of the dead, your unconscious is asking, what part of me died with them? What part of me wants to come back? Sometimes, the dead are not a message. They are the message. Freud knew the limits of interpretation. He once said, "Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, and maybe sometimes a dream of the dead is just a dream of the dead. But more often, it's the unconscious offering you one last conversation, one last moment of contact, one last chance to feel what your waking mind wouldn't dare touch. So the next time you dream of someone you've lost, don't rush to find meaning. Sit with the feeling. Let it speak. Let it cry. Let it remember. Because maybe your dream isn't about moving on. Maybe it's about bringing something back. If you've dreamed of someone who's passed, what feeling did they leave you with? Share below. Sometimes naming it helps. Section 13. The unknown landscape inside you. You wake up confused. The place was unreal, yet detailed. A staircase carved into the side of a glacier. A city floating above a desert. A stranger whispers your name in a language you've never heard, but somehow understand. It didn't feel like a memory. It felt like a prophecy, like a riddle, like a message smuggled in from a place beyond logic. Freud would not dismiss this. He'd call it the deep unconscious, a place not just of repressed memories, but of something more ancient, more symbolic, more universal, a level of the mind where your personal story dissolves into something bigger: myth, archetype, collective memory. Dreams in this realm are not just about your life. They are the theater of your soul. I once had a client who kept dreaming of a library made of water, books floating, words dissolving and reforming. She'd never seen anything like it, but when we explored it, she realized she was grieving her father, a writer. The library was her relationship with his words, solid memories becoming fluid, knowledge that couldn't be held anymore, only felt. Why do we dream of places we've never seen, people we've never met, symbols we've never studied? Because your unconscious doesn't speak in facts. It speaks in forms. It borrows from art, history, instinct, evolution. It taps into the language of humanity, not just biography. A woman dreams she is swallowed by the ocean, only to be reborn as light. She's never read a myth, never studied psychology, and yet she's reenacting the death-rebirth cycle of ancient rites. Why? Because her psyche is moving through transformation, and the only way it knows how to process that change is through image. A man dreams of being chased by a giant eye. He can't escape it. It's watching always. On paper, it's absurd, but in symbolism, it's obvious. The inner critic, the superego, the part of him that is always judging, always measuring. Freud might not use the word archetype, but he'd say your unconscious will use whatever metaphor gets the job done. And that's the point. These dreamscapes are not random. They are constructed, deliberately, with symbols that reflect what cannot be said. That glacier? It's your frozen grief. That floating city? Your unreachable ideal. That stranger with your name? The part of you waiting to be born. Freud taught that these images deserve attention, not dismissal. That even if you don't get it, the dream is working on you, healing you, preparing you, restructuring the emotional architecture of your psyche while your conscious mind rests. So don't underestimate the unknown dream. Don't rush to assign it meaning. Let it linger. Let it work through your day like a background frequency. Ask, what part of me felt different after that dream? What am I now aware of that I wasn't before? Because not all dreams come to explain. Some come to awaken. And if your unconscious can build a whole world while you sleep, what do you think it's trying to prepare you for while you're awake? Next, what happens when you finally try to control the dream? Section 14. The moment you take control, you're falling. Again, you brace for impact, but something shifts. You realize this is a dream. The rules change. Gravity obeys your will. The fall slows. You open your arms and float. For the first time, you're not just a passenger in your unconscious. You're a pilot. This is lucid dreaming. And Freud, though skeptical, would have been fascinated. Lucid dreaming wasn't Freud's primary focus, but it posed a thrilling contradiction to his theory. What happens when the unconscious meets consciousness inside the dream? What happens when the divide collapses and you become the observer and the actor at once? I'll never forget my first lucid dream. I was being chased. Classic anxiety dream. But suddenly I thought, wait, this is impossible. Instead of waking up, I stayed in the dream. I turned around. The monster chasing me? It was me, but scared. Young. I asked it, "What do you need?" It started crying. Said, "I just want you to stop running from me." I woke up sobbing. That was 10 years ago, and it changed how I see myself. The implications are profound. In lucid dreams, people face their fears. Not metaphorically, literally. They ask the monster, "Why are you here?" They walk into the fire instead of running. They revisit trauma, but this time with control. The dream becomes therapy, a sandbox for the soul, a rehearsal space where your inner world can be rewritten safely. And here's the deeper truth: even in non-lucid dreams, your unconscious is always listening, watching, updating. Freud called dreams the guardians of sleep, but maybe they're also architects of self. Every time you revisit an old scene, or confront a new fear, or unlock a forgotten feeling, you're not just processing, you're reprogramming. Lucid dreaming simply accelerates that process. It's the training ground of courage, of curiosity, of control reclaimed. But here's the catch. The goal isn't domination, it's dialogue. The most powerful lucid dreams are not the ones where you fly or fight or manipulate. They're the ones where you listen, where you kneel before the thing you always ran from and say, "What are you trying to teach me?" Because in the end, lucid dreaming doesn't make the unconscious your servant. It makes it your partner. And that shift, from repression to relationship, is the final evolution Freud gestured toward, even if he never fully named it. You don't have to wait for the dream to become lucid to live like that. You can wake every morning and ask, "What did my unconscious show me last night? Where am I still hiding? What part of me needs to be heard, healed, held?" And when you start answering that question, you don't just understand your dreams, you understand yourself. So maybe the dream isn't over when you wake up. Maybe it's just beginning. The dream never ends here. You've just walked the labyrinth of the mind, with Freud as your whispering guide and your own unconscious as the map. You've seen how dreams distort, how they reveal what you hide, what you crave, what you fear. You've stood before your ghosts, kissed the face of shame, and glimpsed the forgotten child within you, who still dares to wish. So what now? Take a breath, because here's what you've actually done. You've decoded the disguised wish. You've seen how memory, guilt, and longing wrap themselves in surreal images. You've revisited your dead, not to mourn, but to listen. You've witnessed the theater of your failures. You've spoken to the parts of yourself you banished in daylight. And maybe, just maybe, you've realized this. Your dreams are not nonsense. They are sacred messages, written in a language only your soul remembers. If this journey stirred something in you, don't let it fade with the morning light. Try this instead. The 3-step dream dialogue. Tonight, before you sleep, whisper one question to your unconscious. Something real. What am I afraid to feel? Or, what part of me needs to come back? When you wake, write down whatever comes, no matter how strange. Let the symbols speak before logic silences them. Then, in the comments below, share one moment from a dream that never left you. One image, one feeling, one face. Let's build a library of inner truths. Because your story isn't just yours. We're all dreaming versions of the same wounds. And if we read our dreams together, we just might start to heal awake. Remember, your unconscious isn't your enemy. It's the oldest, wisest part of you trying to speak. In dreams, in symbols, in whispers. And now, you know how to listen.